Welcome back, it's me. So glad you could join me for another episode. Let's design a three-layer capital repatriation structure using Singapore. I was working with a founder yesterday who has multiple operating entities in emerging markets. He wants to bring that cash flow back home to his country of residence. And he was asking if Singapore can help him do that with minimal taxes and in a way that is BEPS and substance compliant. And so here we are. This video is our answer to his question. In this video, I am going to show you how you can repatriate capital from your operating entities in emerging markets all the way back to your HQ in your country of residence. We'll do that through a three-layer stack that includes an African or Asian country, Singapore, and a tax-free jurisdiction like the British Virgin Islands or a UAE-free zone. The goal is to get it done in a way that minimizes your overall tax burden while still complying with all the latest rules around base erosion and profit shifting or BEPS as well as substance rules. By the end of this video, you'll know the mechanics of this three-layer stack and how to use each jurisdiction effectively. You'll also see why this structure works so well for companies with international operations. Okay, so what's the goal? As I mentioned, we want to bring capital from one or more emerging market countries back to our country of residence. But to do that, we need to consider two things. One, how much tax are we going to pay? We don't want to pay too much. And two, are we going to run into any transfer pricing or other issues? In particular, I'm talking about the OECD's Base Erosion and Profit Shifting Project, or BEPS, which introduced a lot of new rules regarding transfer pricing documentation and substance requirements. These rules have been adopted by most countries around the world, including in Africa and Asia, where we're going to be setting up some of the entities in this structure. So let's start with the first layer in this three-layer stack. Where should we set up our operating entity? For simplicity's sake, let's assume our products or services are targeted at both developed and developing countries. We could choose to incorporate in our country of residence, but that would mean repatriating profits out of multiple foreign countries. That could trigger withholding taxes and complicate our transfer pricing documentation. Instead, we're going to incorporate in an African or Asian country where our products or services are sold. This will allow us to defer taxes while we grow the business. Some examples include Kenya or Indonesia. Okay, so now we have an operating entity in Kenya, for example, that's selling our products or services locally. What do we do with the resulting profits? Well, we could leave them in Kenya and just wait until we're ready to bring them back home. But that comes with its own set of risks and challenges, not least of which is currency risk. If the Kenyan shilling depreciates against our home currency, our real value will go down. We can avoid this by repatriating the profits out of Kenya as soon as we earn them. But where should we send them? Let's talk about that next. Moving on to the second layer, what we really want is access to as many double tax treaties or DTAs as possible. A DTA allows us to reduce or eliminate withholding tax on dividends, royalties, and other payments between related parties. We also want territorial taxation so that we're only taxed on the profits we bring back home. And we want substance rules compliance because we do and want to deal with the headaches of meeting those requirements in multiple jurisdictions. With that in mind, the obvious choice for our second layer is Singapore. Singapore checks all the boxes. They have 80+ DTAs, they offer territorial taxation, and their substance rules are straightforward to comply with. What's more, Singapore offers several options for holding companies, including a tax exemption for certain types of income. So whether our profits are coming from an Asian country like Indonesia or an African country like Kenya, they can pass through Singapore tax-free and onto the third layer. Which brings us to our third and final layer. We want a jurisdiction that imposes no income tax, preferably with strong asset protection laws. This will ensure that our ultimate parent company remains tax-free forever. Some examples include the British Virgin Islands, a UAE-free zone, Nevada, or Wyoming. Now that we have our three-layer stack, let's take a look at the cash flow. Our operating entity in Kenya sells products or services to customers in the region and earns a profit. When we incorporate in Kenya, we can immediately repatriate those profits back to our Singapore holding company. Doing so triggers a dividend distribution and withholding tax in Kenya. But thanks to the DTA between Kenya and Singapore, that withholding tax is reduced to around 5%. From there, the funds are transferred to Singapore and then to our ultimate parent company in the BVI or a UAE free zone. Along the way, we can make management fee and IP royalty payments back up to the operating entity in Kenya. And since these payments are made between related parties, they are deductible in Kenya and won't trigger any withholding taxes. What's more, this entire chain of payments is tax-free since both Singapore and the tax-free jurisdiction impose no taxes on foreign source income. So let's take stock. On the way out of Kenya, we reduced our dividend withholding tax to 5%. Then we passed through Singapore tax-free and onto the BVI or a UAE free zone. So we've minimized our tax burden and avoided transfer pricing issues. That's a win-win, but we can do one better. If we add a debt financing layer to this structure, we can deduct our interest payments in Kenya before our profits ever leave. This means our profits will be reduced by our interest expense, which means less profit to tax and even less taxes to pay. To recap, here's our 3-layer stack for bringing profits from emerging markets back to your home country. First layer, operating entity in an African or Asian country like Kenya. Second layer, intermediate holding company in Singapore. Third layer, ultimate parent in a tax-free jurisdiction like the BVI or a UAE free zone. And remember, you can add a debt financing layer anywhere along the way to reduce your overall tax burden. Now I know what you're thinking. Are there any downsides? Well, yes, there is one. Setting up this structure requires a bit more work than just holding all of your foreign profits in one place or bringing them directly back home. But if you think about it, the extra work pays off in a big way. Once you have the structure in place, the cash flow moves automatically without any additional work on your part. Plus, you're always in a position to take advantage of new opportunities that come up in different countries because you have local operating entities already set up and ready to go. Alright, thanks for joining me today. If you found this video useful, please subscribe to stay in the loop for more great content. Also be sure to check out our website to learn more about our services and how we can help you with your international tax planning. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.